Hello, my name is Emilia and I'm gonna tell the story of Joseph, and particularly what I found most interesting about the story, which is the end of the saga. We know that Joseph got sold as a slave by his own brothers. We know that Joseph was a servant to Potiphar and then sent to jail. And we all know that Joseph became one of the most powerful men in Egypt. And we can say when he was in Egypt that he had everything, but there was one thing that was missing: his family. And the day came when Joseph's brothers, many years later, came to Egypt. And you can only imagine how shocked Joseph was when they arrived. Because Joseph never believed in his mind that he could ever see his brothers again, yet alone if his father was even alive. And after seeing them, he just went outside and cried, because this was so emotional to him. And he probably wanted there and then to reveal himself to the brothers, but something stopped him. Maybe it was God himself. Or maybe it was just not the right time. Because we all remember that Joseph had contact with God. In the end of the day, Joseph was really happy to see them, because it is written when he revealed himself to them that he embraced them and said, "Don't be afraid." And Joseph himself revealed himself in the right moment so he could fulfill God's plan. In the last chapter of Joseph's life, Jacob, his father, died. And the brothers were terrified now, because they believed that, oh no, now we'll get punished for everything we did to Joseph, which was selling him as a slave. And that we can understand, because they knew exactly what they had done. In Genesis chapter 50, verse 17, the brothers sent a message to Joseph saying, "We ask for your forgiveness, servant of our father's God, for everything we have done." Later in verse 18, they visited Joseph, and they all kneeled and said, "We are your slaves." But then Joseph said to them, "Don't be afraid, I am not in the place of God. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the savings of many lives." So Joseph forgives his brothers. So let us just go back for a second here. These brothers that hated him as a child because they were jealous, they took him to captivity, ripped apart the coat that he got from his father, and threw him into a whale. But now, the part that changes everything was when he was sold as a slave. And that they took his whole life and his family from him. But despite of everything they did to him, Joseph still forgave his brothers, and that is really strong of him to do. But then it begs the question, why did he just forgive them? Well, because even if it started with an act of evil, it still turned to something good. Because God can turn every situation, even those we see as evil. And with God's divine mercy, he took Joseph to where he needed to be to save many people's lives. Thank you all for listening.